Hey cats, it's your midsole man, Ed Nitro Bud here. Today I've got a review of a monstrously stacked midsole. It's from Puma, the MAGMAX Nitro. A recovery rocker in for review. Let's check it out. Thanks for joining me on the channel. Do hit that subscribe button if you haven't done so already, and give this video a thumbs up like, it really helps out. Drop us a super thanks as well to help support the channel on a more ad hoc basis. Danke schön. Puma have sent me the MAGMAX Nitro for review, but they're not paying me to make this video, nor will they get to vet my views before my valued viewers get to see them. A hefty 346 grams in my UK size 11, US size 12, about 12.2 ounces if you like that sort of thing, and a heel stack here of 48mm in my size, quite substantial. So just watch those low door frames, that's all I'm saying. I got approximately 42mm in the forefoot for a 6mm drop. The sample size information on screen right now in response to viewer requests, quite the difference in stack in my pair against the sample size for the larger footed runners. So it's nitro material throughout the midsole here, but I am reliably informed that it is a slightly softer version of nitro. It isn't exactly what we've had like going back 2-3 years. This is slightly different stuff to what you may have experienced in nitro foam before. I got a short A gerometer score around about 31 here. It's a little less dense and bouncy than like a size 5 Mitre Mold Master to the face. A very wide Volvo-like fit here. 13.2 centimeters in the widest point up front and about 10.7 centimeters at the widest point in the heel. Puma have a retail price on this one in the UK of 170 Earth credits, that's British pounds, whatever it is, $180 in the US. So we don't have that huge premium sort of extra in Blighty that we have with perhaps the New Balance models. Kicking off with the upper first. Certainly suggests this is true to size, though it is a little bit wider in terms of the toe box fit than some of the other Puma models. Doesn't taper in quite so drastically. I do like the knit material here in the tongue, certainly. It's reminding me of the Alphafly 3 and also Puma's own Magnify Nitro 2. It's stretchy throughout the tongue there. Do like the mesh. It's quite spacious up there. You've got a few overlays here to provide some structure. Though I'm not sure I particularly like the positioning of the Puma one here, the little cat over on the side there by the big toe. I can feel it a little bit. I think this is one for perhaps the wider footed runners who've been on the fence perhaps at trying some of the Puma models out. This one could be ideal for you. Though I'd say the upper's still foot hugging. There's no sort of unwanted movements here once you got the shoe locked in. As I said, the toe box doesn't taper in as much as the Velocity Nitro 3, and the fit is closer to the Magnify Nitro 2. So if that shoe worked for you last time, then this one should be good to go. After my initial testing in this one, I would suggest that the upper is sort of aimed at being like a Puma answer to the Gel Nimbus 26 or the Kayano from Asics. We've got a very built up heel counter area here and a secret message hidden under the pull tab. Not sure I've had to use that pull tab yet. In fact, I don't really use any of them. It is certainly a bucket seat type fit though in the back of the heel. You really do feel locked in. It creates a good sort of stable platform for you. Though I would suggest with the extra materials here, it's quite a sort of plush feeling shoe, I suppose. It might not be the best option for runners who are in warmer climates. The knit and the mesh is quite considerable here in the MAGMAX Nitro, so one of the more toasty options out there at the moment. Comfort wise, it's a plush affair though, more Brian Ferry I suppose than a Roxy Music. I'll give it a 2.6 out of 3 for the upper so far. Midsole, midsole, midsole now. Midsole wise for me, after my initial testing, this one's absolutely locked into that sort of recovery or easy pace territory. It might work well for longer, slower runs perhaps, and certainly with the surface area here that we've got underfoot, Puma are trying to create this sort of maximally cushioned plush kind of feeling. It's not something that I would be reaching for in terms of faster paced training. There's loads of other things out there that are much lighter than this one. The shoe's coming in at quite a hefty 346 grams for me. It's almost 2 ounces more than the Asics Superblast, and it does feel a bit like that. So more in the same class again as that Kayano or the Nimbus or perhaps the Invincible run from Nike. I feel that's the true sort of competitors to this model. As I said earlier, Nitro Blend is softer here, less of the significant rebound that we first found in the Puma Deviate Nitro Original. There's a bit more squash and compression here which makes for a great impact absorber. I would say the heavier you are, I think the more you'll get out of this midsole. I feel like I'm just like an acorn bouncing off of it. I think the heavier built runners will no doubt gain a little bit more as they put more power into the foam. I think they'll get a bit more energy return out of it. I think they've got this wide spread here and surface area to provide a bit more stability because it is a very soft version of Nitro. They've almost like amplified what you had in the Magnify Nitro even further here to create their most maximally cushioned offering so far, aside from the Fast RB, which I'm sure will surface at some point. I do perhaps wonder why Puma haven't put it front and centre, that this isn't the same sort of Nitro material that we've had before. Bit bouncier. It is a PUMA based version here, apparently. I have that straight from Puma, though the proof is always in the pudding on foot. Perhaps not as propulsive as something like the Prime X, more along the lines of the Super Blast 2, though the foam isn't as light and airy and feels a bit less brittle than the ASICS shoe. I would say the MAGMAX Nitro is quite a rigid shoe in the forefoot area. Certainly it wants you to utilise that forefoot rocker and engage it, and with all that heel stack here, it's almost inviting you to sort of land there and roll through. So perhaps not for all running styles. If you land in sort of heel or midfoot, then you probably get more out of it. If you're running up on your forefoot, you're probably not going to get that much from it. As a max stack offering though, if you like Puma stuff, then this one's obviously going to be something you want to try out. Perhaps the Super Blast just isn't available anywhere for you in your size, and the Nimbus and Kayano just aren't quite happening enough. You don't want that gel in the heel, for example, then the MAGMAX Nitro could be the one. Bit too much of a niche option for me though to make it a absolute must-have. I'll give it a 2.6 out of 3 for the midsole. Just feels like there's a lot there, but I'm not really engaging it or making the most use out of it. Outsole now, we've got a really thick spread of rubber here. It's great, Puma grip stuff, traction's really good, certainly on cornering too, and they've stretched it out a little bit. There's quite a lot of exposed midsole here, especially in the forefoot area. There's loads of little areas where I got a lot of dirt and debris that's got caught up, and it's quite hard to actually liberate some of that stuff too. It's even thicker back here in the heel as well, certainly on that lateral side. They've put a lot of rubber and it stretches way back into the rear of the shoe. Great on road and pavement. Got to try it out in some slightly wet conditions and it felt okay as well. Sometimes when you get pavements that have got a little bit of rain on, very recent, it can be a bit slippery, almost like oily, but I didn't have any major issues in the MAGMAX Nitro. I think good grip and like hard to clean almost always goes hand in hand, especially when you've got quite deep lugs as we have here in the forefoot. So probably a good sign of longevity, and if you're buying the shoe for like sort of easy runs or recovery or something, you probably get loads and loads of miles out of it before it starts to wear down. Though with more of that rubber here, it does mean that the shoe is a little less flexible, even more reliance on that rocker. It just doesn't sort of bend at all. 2.7 out of 3 for the outsole so far. Not much wrong with it. Value wise, this one certainly is a niche option, and I think there's probably a slight focus on people running sort of marathons or half marathons, doing those really long training runs when you need something super plush and cushioned to get you out there after you've done perhaps those sort of 20-mile runs, just to get the legs moving again. I think at £170 here in the UK, that is quite the outlay for such a focused beast. It's certainly a well put together shoe out of the box. All Puma stuff has been, in fairness, of recent time. There's no dodgy stitching or like excess glue used anywhere. Just feels like some care's gone into the shoe. So perhaps more marathon training tool here, or perhaps for those that are coming back from injury, could be really useful. The obvious down point here is the weight, especially against something like the Super Blast. So a touch cheaper, but as a durable option, the ASICS is tough to beat. Certainly a shoe that's broken in over the last few runs. The more miles I've got into it, the softer it seems to get. So be prepared for some break-in time if you pick up the MAGMAX Nitro. So in terms of fun factor or like enjoyment for your money, it's not perhaps the wild pony that the Prime X from Adidas is, or the squashy sensation of the Invincible run. It does make me wonder what the shoe would be like if you perhaps had a stacked midsole with some like Nitro Elite and then some of this Nitro foam, so pretty much copying what you've got in the Super Blast, but with the Puma foams. But that might be a little bit too close to the Puma Deviate Nitro for comfort, although of course without a plate. I'm pretty sure it would still be stable enough, especially with this width. So this is probably one of those shoes that will either have you running for your credit card or perhaps going to dig out some of your lower stacked options that are in the cupboard. I'll give this one a 2.5 out of 3 for value. I think it's going to be for very specific runners only. If I've totaled all the scores up correctly, we got a 10.4 out of 12 after my initial runs for the PUMA MAGMAX NITRO. What do you make of this one, people? Was it like a must-have pickup? Do you already have something perhaps in the closet in your rotation for those easy or recovery days? Let me know your thoughts and opinions on this one down in the comments. Very quick musical interlude for you. I'm still listening on repeat to the new album from Jack White. It's called No Name. Track 5, though, is the one Archbishop Harold Holmes. There's some sounds there that really do bring me back to like early Bo Diddley, like some of his live performances. Wonderful sort of raking of the strings, loads of distortion, these wonderful riffs, very sort of aggressive and gritty. And the vocal in this one from Jack White is just unhinged. I've no idea what he's going on about. He's sort of rambling almost, but it's a very exciting track. Fantastic guitar tones here. Just the bare bones that make up rock and roll. It's one of the best albums for years, people. Go and check it out on some of the streaming services. I do believe via the Third Man Records website, you can pick up a copy of this on vinyl early September. It's a pre-order and it's quite reasonably priced as well. Go and check it out, Archbishop Harold Holmes from Jack White. Thanks for tuning in, people. It is always appreciated. Hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up like. Also comment to help fight the algorithm. My name's EDDBUD and I'll be seeing you